What's up everyone, AJ on Day Trader Boom or Bust, here with today's recap. I hope you had a great trading day. Mine was okay, unfortunately it was a red day, but my trade book tends to have trouble performing on inside days like it was today. It tends to perform better on days where the market trends in one direction or the other like it did yesterday. That's something I plan to address or improve on in the future. The question for now, though, is the work that I'm putting in and the rules that I've implemented making to help me become a better trader, are they working? That really is where my focus is. And after a week and a half of being in this process, let's find out if it is. This is the watch list from today. I post this every morning between 9 and 9:15 a.m. on my Twitter. So if you want to make sure to catch that, go ahead and give me a follow at AJ Tabayan. So on the primary watch list, I had LCID, it was a gapper, and then I had MU, which had reported earnings. And then on the secondary list, I had CCL based off of the daily chart. And then I had Oxy, Nvidia, PLTR, and Apple, all as continuation plays. I also added BABA in there just as a possible. I didn't feel it really had, it didn't look like it was in play based on the volume and the price action early in the day, but it has been trading well. So, as I mentioned in the intro, let's talk about whether or not I feel we're making progress with what I've been doing the past week and a half. Well, I can tell you, let's be clear, this is a very small data set. So, we're going to have to take it with a grain of salt. But I can tell you that by Wednesday of last week, I was red 4.6R on the week. This week, even after the red day on Monday and today, I am green 2.3R for this week. So that's pretty big because we're talking about over 6R, almost 6.5R difference at this time in the week, versus last week. So, that in and of itself is not an indication necessarily that everything's working, especially given this short time frame and small data set. But I can also tell you that it's becoming much easier every day to stick to the rule of taking only 6 trades. By Tuesday of last week, I had already broken the rules. This week, I have not broken any of the rules at all. I think and that is having a domino effect because it's also forcing me to be more selective with the trades that I take. So I'm not rushing into anything, which is really helping out, but I still feel that I need to work on fine-tuning, the current trade book strategies that I have to work when I have such limited number of trades to take for a day. Because in the past, I would just, it was just a free-for-all, and it did work a lot of the time. But the challenge was when it didn't work, I ended up with huge losses, which is what really, drove me to, making or working towards making these types of changes. So all in all, I think that at least what I'm trying to accomplish seems to be taking place. It's getting ingrained slowly but surely. And then, I'll worry about the results a little bit later. So let's talk about today. At the beginning of the day, unfortunately, I started the day off with a couple of losing trades. I got caught up in some very volatile price action on LCID. Here we have, this is the 1 minute, and you can see that there's a clear support and resistance, at least in this opening range here. I was a little overzealous, I guess, with this initial entry. I should have waited for it to clear at least this area, if not this area. So the first trade I feel is on me. I did feel from the L2 that this was bullish on the day, so I went long here. But unfortunately, like I said, because it was quite volatile, it came right back on me and then stopped me out. And then I got a little bit fooled by these doji candles here, and it started to look like it could actually sell off a little bit. I don't, it's not a great practice to be switching. But sorry, I should caveat that with the fact that I don't believe that you should be married to one particular bias. But I do feel that in this particular case, the L2 really showed that this was strong. Unfortunately, in this case, I kind of took the bait, so to speak. And I did wait. Unlike this one, I did wait for it to push below all of the, all of these, maybe not, this low of day at the time, which in hindsight, maybe I should have waited for it to break below that. But when it did push below here, I went short, and then it immediately came back on me and then stopped me out. So right off the bat, I was down, I think 2.2 or 2.2 or maybe even 2.3 R after some slippage because of this aggressive price action, which was a shame. And as you can see, my original thesis was right. It was bullish and it proceeded to run up. But after the second trade, I stopped looking at it because I thought that I could really get caught, get in more trouble on Lucid, which is one of the ways I feel that this process has helped me mature as a trader, because after something like this, I probably would have tried to battle with this stock, and maybe this time it would have worked because I would have got long and would have caught some winners. Or like I said, when the days go bad, I could have just got caught up in more range bound and choppy price action and really hemorrhaged a lot out of my bank, out of my trading account. So anyways, so that was Lucid. Those were the only two trades that I took on that. Like I said, took my focus away from that. I didn't want to give any more back after that. So the next trade was on Nvidia. So let me pull up the 5-minute chart here. So you can see here on Nvidia, So you know what, maybe the 1-minute chart is a little clearer. Apologies for that. Yeah, so if you look at the 1-minute chart here, this was the high of day at the time, and it had traded in the first few minutes in this range over here, but then it threw this upside down hammer over here, so this caught my attention. And then you can see that it threw this big red candle. After it threw that, I didn't want to get in after that because I felt that I would be chasing, but I did wait for it to pull back and retest this pre-market low level. And you can see it did. It wicked off of, and when it came back below that, I went short. And this is where sometimes starting off with a couple losing trades, it can really affect your day. I gave this a bit of a wider stop than I might have liked, because I really wanted to give it a chance to work. It did work very well in my direction. Actually, my stop loss was just above previous day close here, and I was okay with it being right above there because I thought at the very least, with how aggressive this had moved down, that it would at least test previous day close. I didn't really care at that point whether or not it really ran below it. I just wanted it to test it. So you can see though, it did start to have some trouble in this area here. So when it did that, this where it wicked here was about 1.8 R or 1.9 R probably. So when it did that and it didn't hit my my limit order, I did take this partial. This is a 50% partial, and that was a 50% partial where 2R was 150 bucks. This was about $130, so this was a $65 partial there. And I took that because I thought, okay, you know what? You know, it may pull back, but on the very off chance that it doesn't come back and test, at least I've booked some profit. But I really felt confident that it was at least going to come back and at least test this level again. So at the very least, I would have been able to exit close to my original profit target. And because of that, I didn't even worry about moving my... I had moved my stop loss to the top of this candle here, my entry candle. I didn't move it to break even because, you know, this was below any significant level, and again, I didn't want it to get stopped out unnecessarily. But I didn't really think it was going to come all the way back up to VWAP after, you know, pushing down so much. But it did. And it did stop me out. And I took, I think, a 0.2 R loss there. So overall, though, this was a trade that was, I guess, a 0.5 R win. But it was unfortunate because, you know, it was so close to being, you know, full 2R win. So that was my trade on Nvidia. After that, I was watching CCL. And let's take a look at the 5-minute here. CCL, as you can see, really sold off. I watched this actually happen after those two LCID trades, and you know, I wasn't going to jump in because this was totally chasing, but what a great short that would have been. So I waited for it to maybe do a pullback, and I let it pull back, and because this was so aggressive, I thought it might have to pull back quite a bit before it bounces. You can see here that wait a second, sorry. I'm just trying to see what exactly it was that I did here. Okay, yeah, so this was a bit of an ambush trade because I was looking at this previous day close and pre-market low level, and I felt that if it came up to that point, you know, I could jump in with a stop loss right over here and, you know, catch a good run down if it failed to push above here. Unfortunately, I was really aggressive with moving, as I expect to be with this ambush entry strategy. I had moved my stop loss to just above where I entered, and it came back on me, and although it eventually did run in my direction, which I'm not sure if I don't think my profit target would have been hit here, but if I had kept my stop loss up here, which, you know, is not the objective of this entry strategy. So I'm not saying that that's anything I'm going to change, but, you know, my thesis was right. It did bounce off here. Bottom line is I did get stopped out, but because of that aggressive move, I only got stopped out for 0.2 R. So I'll take that. You know, that's I'm not going to be too disappointed in that. I'm always a little bit disappointed when a trade doesn't work when I enter, but then goes in my direction. But I think that happens a lot of the time, and that's something we all kind of need to live with. We got to trust our strategies, and this time, you know, I trusted it, and that's the beauty of this ambush entry type strategy. It's that I can really limit my losses and give myself a higher percentage of wins when it goes in my direction. So anyways, it's still something I'm working on, but unfortunately this particular trade did not work out. After that, I took a look back at Nvidia. Okay, so here on Nvidia, you can see that after that trade that stopped me out right over here, it pushed all the way back up and actually made a new high of day. So I thought at this point, wow, well, you know, I really don't know what's going on with Nvidia, but It failed to, you know, you can see it did that on some pretty high volume here, even on the 5 minute. And it pushed all the way back down again. I really wasn't gonna consider it until there was a clear setup, and you can see it came all the way back down here. At which point I was like, okay, this is a little bit interesting, but you know, it could just as easily go all the way back up and run up. So I'm not going to jump into anything here right away, but you can see it had a lot of trouble getting above VWAP over here, which in and of itself is not a level, but on the level 2 you could see that it's starting to get held up here. So again, I did a bit of an ambush entry here, maybe a little bit premature. As you can see, it's still consolidated after this entry, but I had a stop loss here around VPOC. And this time I didn't move it right away. I didn't want to move it till at least I knew it had cleared the bottom of this candle. And actually this 200 SMA here to know that it was really moving my direction. So I waited for that, and it did, and immediately sold off and easily hit my 2-hour profit target. So this trade did work. That was nice. That actually put me at just a couple bucks green for the day. So at that point I felt pretty good about the day, because like I said, going into the day I wasn't sure if it was going to be an inside day like it ended up being. So I thought if I can just limit any potential loss, that'd be great. That was my 5th trade of the day, so it was clear to me that I wanted to be patient, because I had one more trade in hand, so to speak. And so I waited. This particular trade on Nvidia, as you can see here, happened at 10:51. This last trade on DKNG didn't happen till 2 o'clock. So I was really patient and I waited. But with that said, I think after all that patience, I got a little bit impatient, I guess, with where I took this trade. To be honest with you, you can see that DKNG here really sold off on the day. There was a large number of bids here at 48. And I was actually waiting. I was going to do a bit of an ambush entry. So not only was this 48, but at 48.04 here is the S5 level. And I thought that at the very least there would have been a really strong bounce pullback from that, if not a full reversal, if it came and ate up those bids. So I was ready for it to come and touch that level so I could get an entry. And you can see that it really tried, one time, 2 times to get down there. But it didn't. And then when it started to push up, I thought, okay, you know what, this, let's play this. I played this as a potential continuation off of the 20 EMA on this 5-minute chart. So when it did, I actually did, I didn't ambush short, because I thought, well, let's, I think it's come up enough. I have enough room to get a 2-hour trade if it went on the way down to those $48 bids. Unfortunately, that was not to be. You can see I got stopped out there. At the same time that this was happening, and I talked a bit about this yesterday, the SPY made this aggressive move up. And so there was no way that DKNG was going to buck that trend. So unfortunately, I ended up taking a loss there. And that put me at the 0.85R loss that I had today. But even after that trade, where previously I probably would have kind of lost my attitude a little bit, and maybe started to overtrade because of these new rules. And this is why I feel that the process is working. I stayed disciplined. I'm not going to say that I didn't feel like I really wanted to take another trade, but it was easier to kind of tamp those feelings down and just be like, you know what, We just live to fight tomorrow, and that's what we're gonna do. So when it's all said and done, finish the day off here at just under 0.9R red. And I think overall, when it's all said and done, that's a bit of there's definitely some small wins to take from this, in my opinion. With the progress that I've made and making sure that I've kept the losses low, I'm still green on the week. And if I have a couple of strong days, this could be a really, really good week. So, and that I think is the whole reason I'm going through this process. So thanks so much for tuning in. Until the next recap, this is AJ on Day Trader Boom or Bust, signing out. Cheers.